So, welcome back to Hyaku Shiki 96, your favourite billionaire philanthropist. So today I want to talk about whether or not you can collect if you were just in Liverpool. So I decided to go and visit one of the biggest cities in the north of the UK. Liverpool's a fantastic city. I specifically want to focus on whether or not if you were out there for whatever reason and you were just confined to the city centre, is there actually enough collecting stuff that you can get done? Mostly I'm going to focus on video games, but I'm also going to include a little bit of commentary about manga and adjacent things like that. I feel like a lot of these hobbies go hand in hand. I mean, you can see behind me, I've got manga and I've got video games. So if you're somebody who is quite keen and interested to see if you should go on a trip to Liverpool anytime soon, this will give you an idea. Okay, so the first place that I want to talk about today, as you have seen, is Worlds Apart. Honestly, I feel like maybe I started this one a bit too strong. Worlds Apart is right next to one of the Liverpool train stations. I believe it's called Lime Street, and it's not even too far from Central either, so it's quite a good location. It's slightly outside of the Liverpool one shopping area. And for me, the selection's always been fantastic at this shop. I've always been impressed, and you can see the sheer amount that covers all the different walls in terms of manga. If you're looking for something there, you're going to find it. On the upstairs floor, which I didn't really film because I think on this occasion it wasn't too much that interested me, there's usually quite a good bit of pop culture and different sort of gaming merchandise as well. So I feel like, even for those who are collecting video games, this is the kind of shop you should pop into just to see what you find. Especially, like I said, the downstairs floor's fantastic, full of lots of great manga. One of the things I also really loved is how they've sort of like really improved their Gunpla display. That cabinet that you saw before, really cool. That's not something that was there the last time I was there, so I genuinely really appreciate that. It makes the experience look more exciting and makes it feel more thoughtful. Also just the display figures where they just put them into certain cabinets and stuff. I feel like a lot of love was put into those displays. But anyway, enough about how much I really like the shop. I think what I really want to convey is, can you collect? And yes, the 3 for 2s on the manga make it a very accessible and great place to pick up many volumes. And I think there's enough variety there that it's not just the really super famous stuff. There are some sort of more lesser known ones, and I've always found there's something that I would be interested in there. So if you're thinking about whether or not you should go and take a look there, I'd say this is one of my top recommendations in Liverpool. It's really a fantastic shop, and you can't really go wrong. Okay, so the next place on the list is CEX in the Liverpool Central Station. So you've seen it's quite a small shop, but I think they use the space quite effectively. One of the things I think is interesting about the shop is I feel like the stock varies quite a lot each time I go there, but they generally don't have very much PS2. I do find myself quite impressed with the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch selection there. There tends to be quite some good stuff there. I feel like this isn't a shop I would travel to see, despite the fact they do have some really good rarities in there ever so often. But it's the fact that there's also another one, another CX in close proximity, which we'll get to towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. That's why I would say it's definitely worth the trip, because if you're like in link transport, going somewhere else, you can pop in for a few minutes and there's enough there to sort of keep you entertained and some good pickups every now and then too. So it's definitely, I think this CX isn't one that I would prioritize for collecting, but I think there's enough there that it makes a good secondary CX, if that makes any sense, because you really know you're way too deep into this hobby if you're thinking about going to more than one shop at the same time. But, you know, I definitely like it, and I think there's some good things there. So, with that on the way, let's get to the next shop. So we've come to Worlds Apart. So Worlds Apart, I think the day I went in there wasn't very well stocked, which is unfortunate because usually it is. I think in terms of memorabilia, it's a very strong shop. As you could see, there were lots of plushies and sort of figures that were on display quite well. A lot of sort of like TCG and even some books, which is nice. So there's a really big variety of things. I think the manga stock was quite poor. They also didn't have any Gunpla, which is a shame. They usually do, so perhaps I think it's a stock issue. They have a good variety of figures and other things. So I feel like, again, this is one that, because it's so close to the other shops, I would go visit it. But just like Liverpool Central, I don't feel like it's necessarily good enough. I mean, when you compare it to Worlds Apart, I think Worlds Apart is a better shop and has been for a while. However, because it's so close, there's really not any disadvantage to going to see this one just to see what's there. I just think that you'll generally find a better price effectiveness. However, they still have some really fantastic items there as well. So you may find some good items there, but I think you will probably, if you were spending money on manga and memorabilia, you'd probably focus more on Worlds Apart generally. But it's just so close, you've got to check it out when you're there. So definitely good recommendations about that one. now we come to the last shop that we're going to look at today, and that is the CEX. So this CEX I think is quite a great one to do, especially because, as you could see, 2 floors. I always enjoy 2 floors, mainly because it means that one's actually quite quiet, and I love they put a lot of the retro stuff like the PS2, the PS3, the PSP, PS Vita at the bottom, as well as the films as well. So you can kind of, I guess, sort of feel a bit more relaxed looking through, especially because the upper floor's always crowded. I do like the amount of items they have on display. Really, I think it was a good day when I went there. The amount of PS2 and PS1 rarities was quite shocking. Usually they do have good stuff, but not that much. Again, it's kind of the part of being in and out CXs is very dependent on what they've got at that time as to whether you personally recommend it. But I found over the years that I've visited, because I visited Liverpool quite a few times, there's always something good there. If you had to only go to one in the area out of those 2 CXs, I definitely recommend that one. I think there's always something cool that you can find. They've got quite a strong selection, not just of rarities, but also of the more modern stuff as well. I generally find as well it's a little bit cleaner and better kept, the items in that store as well, and I think that's probably due to the larger amount of staff. You know, Liverpool Central CX is a much smaller store with much less staff on it, so they'd have a reduced capability in that sense. However, yeah, I feel like it's one of those ones that's actually genuinely worth visiting. I've got some really great stuff from there before, and I feel like I'm going to find really great stuff there in the future. It's kind of one of those staple ones that I'm always excited to go and see. And so for me, I feel like honestly, you can't go wrong looking at this particular CEX. If we're talking about game collecting, I would say, and you're in the Liverpool sort of city area, this is the one to stop in if you could only stop in one. So without that out of the way, let's talk about sort of summarising my thoughts and experiences here. I think what's been really fun is just being able to go and have a look in the shops. I've been staying true to my word that you saw in the last video, because obviously I bought the computer and, you know, the audio equipment and stuff. I'm refraining away from purchases. I think I'm going to try and see if there's anything I can trade in the future. Maybe that way I can make a pickup the next time out. But if I find something to trade in, that is. So I'll have a look around and see if I've got anything spare. But the main thing that you're here for is it worth it? Yes, yes is the answer. Liverpool, I think, has enough variety of stuff. It's got some great tech shops. It's got other shops that I haven't even shown, like the Lego shop and Menkind. So it's got, I think, enough a variety of different niches and interests, from people who love books, people who love anime, people who love films, people who love games, that there's going to be more than one thing there for you. And for me, that is a big part of why I would recommend it. There are a lot of places where you go and there's one good shop, but the problem of having one good shop is that it can be very stock dependent, especially if you're traveling to go there. But Liverpool has enough variety of stuff beyond just the shops as well, but also kind of, you know, the Albert Docks and a lot of the historic looking stuff, that there is more than enough that makes it an easy recommend. So yes, you absolutely can collect, even if you only go to Liverpool. There's enough variety of shops and availability there that you could build up an entire collection there, and that's really quite cool. And I feel like I want to see and have a look at some other cities in the future, so let me know if you enjoyed this kind of format. I'm really interested to see and think about what are some of the best places to go and collect in terms of, like, let's say, the amount of different things that you can get, like as in the one-stop areas, you know, because there are a lot of great areas with things that are spread out, like different shops that you might have go 20 minutes here, 20 minutes that direction, 20 minutes that direction to find. What I love about Liverpool is that all so close, they're all in the same area, they're all, you know, 5-minute walk away from each other, and that really makes it quite a great sort of route to go on a day out if you're there, that you can stop into whilst you're doing other things. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I have to say, I think I really need to sort of get a move on here, because I've just got a call and it looks like I need to go back to the yacht. There's an important upgrade that I need to make. There's the new Super Deluxe hot tub that's come out, and I need to check if that's worth installing. So I'm going to get back to you soon and I'll be having a great time. But anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.